Do you see the beauty of it? The inevitability. You rise, only to fall. And when the dust settles, the only thing living in this world will be metal.
I called it. I so called it when I was talking about my older videos with Cloak and Dagger about what Ultron would possibly be. I did mention that he was going to be a flyer of some sort, and now that we see official gameplay footage, not only from Marvel Rivals, but also certain gameplay testers and behind the scenes gameplay video, yes, it is definitely evident that he's going to be a permaflyer as a strategist in Marvel Rivals, which will make him the first strategist to permanently fly, which is nice because, like I mentioned, it wouldn't make sense to add a character like Ultron to this game if he has no flying capabilities whatsoever. But that's besides the point. For this week's weekly Marvel Rivals news update video, I want to focus all about Ultron, especially since his patch update is going to arrive this Friday. Now, before you start diving into getting gameplay experience yourself as Ultron, here's everything you need to know about his abilities and how to best master Ultron before the patch update coming May 30th, this Friday. Let's dive into it. So to start things off, let's talk about his movement capabilities, because it's pretty evident he's going to be a permaflyer or permafloater, whatever you want to say it. That means that he moves similar to Magneto, where they're just constantly off the ground, so they just kind of float there. However, he does have an ability that allows him to do a quick dash and enter free flight mode. So you could basically fly around like Storm, Iron Man, and Human Torch. But the movement mobility is kind of nice because it allows you to dash Omni. So if you need to do a quick dodge against a projectile or an ultimate, whatever, you can hit that ability, and hopefully it will put you far enough distance away to dodge a projectile, dodge a blast radius, etc., etc. So it's a nice ability to have for him. And as I mentioned, based off of the leaked abilities and also what we saw from the initial launch of his intro video, his primary fire is a basic particle beam. But what makes it different though, it's like a burst fire. So think of it like not as an assault rifle like you would see in like Call of Duty, but a burst rifle. So it goes in spurts, goes in rounds. That's why you see his ammo gauge as 6 instead of a high number like you normally see with heroes that has particle beam primary fire like Emma Frost. You hold Emma Frost's primary fire and it's continuous beam, whereas with Ultron it's a burst fire. So you still have to aim like Emma Frost. It doesn't have auto aim like Scarlet Witch, so you do have to aim correctly, but it goes in a burst rate. So it's a little bit different, it's a little bit unique. Now, whether or not the players will be able to master it or whether or not they'll like it, we will find that out once everyone has their hands on Ultron this coming Friday. However, in terms of how to best use his primary fire, it's best used to aim just like how you would aim your particle beam shots with Emma Frost. Make sure it lines up with the hero. It's not considered a projectile, it's more like a hit scan, so as long as your cursor is directly at the hero, there's a good chance you should hit that hero directly with no issues. Now, before I talk about his abilities, we'll just quickly go over the ultimate. His ultimate, Rage of Ultron, basically, as it stated in the text, he summons a whole bunch of drones. In my mind, I was thinking he was going to summon drones and they just do their own bidding, fly on their own, do damage on their own, whether they damage nearby enemies or damage nearby allies. But from the look on the gameplay video, they actually surround you, and basically it just allows you to do a lot more of a burst damage capability. But if you aim at your teammates, then you do burst healing during that whole alteration. So that's actually pretty nice. We won't know the full numbers until the patch update drops, but just looking at the gameplay footage video, it definitely looks like something that you can best use his ultimate during crowded team fights. So if you have a teammate Groot who can use his ult and you can group all the enemies together, that's definitely one way you can cast your ult and do a lot of damage that way. You get a lot of picks off that way, cripple the enemy team, because it looks like the little blast do a little bit of splash damage or AoE hits, so that might be nice. If it doesn't, just having all of the enemies crowded in a very tight spot makes it very easy for you to do high damage numbers during your ult durations. Or on the flip side, if you know that your teammates is in trouble, or they're just all clumped together during a team fight and they're fighting a Moon Knight that can easily burst them down, you can cast your ultimate and then you can just fire all your shots at your teammates to do a whole bunch of burst healing to keep your teammates alive, because they're all crowded together. Therefore, all those shots will hit them all at once, and I think that would definitely keep your teammates alive. So I think he really would excel in team fights when people are clumped together. But for him, it doesn't matter if your allies are clumped together or if the enemies are clumped together. Either way, you'll get great value if you cast your ultimate during those time durations, or if you pair your ult with a Groot ult or some sort of hero that could do a team-wide CC ult. But given the fact that it looks like it's projectiles during the ultimate, I would keep in mind of when you fight against an enemy Magneto that casts his ult, there might be a good chance that your ult might get absorbed, like all your shots. So do keep in mind that if Magneto casts his ultimate, you're not going to heal your teammates or damage the enemy heroes when Magneto's giant bubble is absorbing all those projectiles. So definitely keep in mind on that. But next we're going to talk about his first ability, called Imperative Patch. Basically, as I mentioned in last week's video, it's an ability where he sends a giant drone to follow an ally that will constantly heal that ally. However, it's a AoE heal, so it will heal other allies within that vicinity area. However, the ally that you attach the drone to will get additional healing on top of that. So it's definitely really nice during team fights. So I would recommend pairing this up with the tank, because they're in the front lines more often. You just give them the Imperative Patch buff, and it's a mechanical positive buff, so they will definitely receive it. But because it's a form of a regen buff, we won't know if it will either stack with Mantis's regen buff or if it will override it. My theory, based off of my mechanics video, they should stack because it's a unique type of buff, but we won't know until the patch drops this Friday. I'll do some testing, I'll let you guys know. But it's definitely nice to know that if you are playing with an ally Mantis, and if you give the main tank the Imperative Patch buff, that he gets additional healing, your ally Mantis could do her healing abilities on other allies around the tank, so you can double up healing capabilities that way, and then really keep your heroes topped off over time without constantly having to heal them all the time. So I can see that working very well with the Imperative Patch buff. But on top of that, it also correlates with his next ability, called Imperative Firewall, where he summons drones to grant bonus health to allies within range. But the drones will be centered around himself and that particular ally that has the Imperative Patch buff. So this is where you have to understand the mechanics of what buffs can do and how certain buffs work with one another. If you want to get the best value for your Imperative Firewall, you need to cast your Imperative Patch first on a target ally, and then you cast your Imperative Firewall, so that not only you're giving yourself bonus health, you're giving that ally bonus health as well. And any allies that's around you or that ally that has that buff, they will get bonus health too. So this is one of those kits where you can easily do a combo, but it's a support combo for Ultron, where you can cast Imperative Patch first, then follow up with Imperative Firewall, and that should give you and your teammates enough sustainability to really tip the team fight into your favor. Or if the enemy team is casting their defensive ult and you don't have your ultimate yet, then you can do this combo to hopefully level the playing field within just enough time to either you to get your ult to cast it, your teammate to cast their defensive ult if they're a support character, or any one of your other DPS heroes to cast their ultimate to tip the tide back into your favor and hopefully win that team fight. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you start playing and trying out Ultron. Just get used to that mentality to perform that combo in that order, or else you're going to lose a lot of value if you try to do imperative firewall first and then cast your imperative patch if you see someone in trouble. So that's pretty much the breakdown of his abilities. And now that we have concrete gameplay of what Ultron is like, I can easily describe what type of hero he might be. Again, this is all very close to semi-speculative, semi-concrete answers, because now that we have gameplay footage, it's easier to dictate what his playstyle is going to be. With everything now laid out, Ultron definitely looks like one of those support heroes that, yes, he might have high damage capabilities like Loki would with his clones, but with Ultron, he does it in a form of his primary fire and his ultimate, whereas his abilities are more support abilities to help keep himself alive and his teammates alive. Therefore, if you play Ultron correctly, and the more you get used to him, if you want to main Ultron, the aim of the game to really master Ultron's kit is to learn how to keep yourself alive longer in a team fight so you can out DPS the other team heroes, whether you're fighting against an enemy support hero, an enemy DPS, because you have a lot of ways to give yourself bonus health and give yourself regen and give your teammates regen over time. And the fact that he's a flyer, well, that makes it a lot harder for you to get dove by other dive heroes like the Hulk or Venom would have a harder time snatching you from the sky in comparison to them just diving one of your other teammates in the back line. Therefore, one type of playstyle I would recommend you prepare yourself doing is to keep an eye out for oncoming divers. Because you're in the air and you're a strategist, naturally you're going to be in the back line. So you should have an easier time to spot enemy divers coming your way a lot better than your ally support hero. And if you do see them, mark them so that not only that you can let your teammates know, especially your support teammate, hopefully if one of your DPS teammates is nearby the enemy diver, they can go answer that and hopefully ward off that dive attempt. You stay protected and you're providing communication to your teammates because you're in the air, you're in the back line. So I would assume it'll be a lot easier for you to see what's going on. However, the biggest adversaries you might face as Ultron, because you'll be in the air, ironically would be snipers, because enemy heroes like Hela or Hawkeye could still snipe you in the sky, even Black Widow. So if you're not careful, if you're not close by a wall, close by a ledge, or some sort of obstacle that can obscure the sniper's line of sight, you can easily get picked out of the sky by a sniper if you're not getting dove on. So that's something you need to keep in mind on. And then another that you might face that might give you a hard time would be other enemy flyers like Iron Man, Storm, or Human Torch, simply because you are a healer. Therefore, if you are trying to duel against Iron Man, or if they are coming after you, they'll be able to out DPS you a lot faster than you can out DPS them. Even though you do have healing capabilities, they have a lot more offensive firepower into their kit. Therefore, it'll be a lot easier for them to burst you down before you can get yourself going, keep yourself protected, or just out DPS them. Even though you do have high DPS capabilities, they could just do it better, simply because you are strategists. And I wouldn't think the developers would give you high amount of damaging firepower when you're considered as a strategist. If they wanted Ultron to do a whole lot of damage, then they will make him as a duelist, not a strategist. Therefore, I wouldn't think your primary fire would be able to contest other enemy flyer heroes unless you can get the leg up and surprise attack them first. But that wouldn't happen so often. That's why I'm saying enemy flyers would be an adversary for you to be careful on, because they'll be on your level ground, playing ground, and enemy snipers, because you are a sitting target and they can easily pick you out of the sky if you're not careful. And also Spider-Man, but because a really good Spider-Man player could easily take out any flyer in the sky, no matter how good you are at maneuvering around. But that's what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, only if they're good. So to wrap this up, in summary, when you start playing Ultron, when he drops this week, get used to practicing the combo healing capabilities, so that you can naturally be good, keeping yourself alive and your teammates alive by using Imperative Patch first, and then follow up with Imperative Firewall during a team fight so that you can keep yourself very well sustained and protect your allies at the same time. Give them a regen dot, and also just be mindful with his primary fire. It acts like a burst rifle. Any type of healing regen won't look the greatest because there's no burst healing capabilities, but in theory, the longer you stay in the fight with the regen buff, the better off you'll be. Whereas burst healing is good for quick fights. Regen healing is great for long-term fights. And that's why I think Ultron ultimately will thrive, is long-term war of attrition type of team fights. Therefore, he will definitely excel with team composition with either a triple tank comp, 2 supports, 1 DPS. Because you'll just have so much sustainability and your team will be built to handle the war of attrition, whittle down the enemy team, and because you would give off such a great regen buff to yourself and whoever ally you give that buff to, I think he's going to excel in that team composition. However, I think a lot of players are just going to be salty that he doesn't do burst healing capabilities outside of his ult, but we'll see. This is just first-hand impressions. We'll get more data as the days go by leading up to the release, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for Ultron? Are you going to try him out when he drops? And if you are a strategist main, do you think he's going to be one of those heroes that you're going to main as well in competitive rank matches or even tournament play? Leave me your comments down below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to jump into the discussions that we might have. Honestly, I've been looking for a secondary healer outside of Cloak and Dagger. I love Cloak and Dagger, but I want to be flexible with a different healer as well. And I think Ultron will definitely be that hero for me, just because he brings something totally different to the table that Cloak and Dagger doesn't do. So I'm excited to try out Ultron. I'll let you know how I feel about him once he drops this Friday. But if you want to stay tuned for more videos like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It'll definitely help me out with the YouTube algorithm to push these videos out to other Marvel Rival fans, and it's free to do. It only takes 1 second out of your day to do that, to help me out, and I'll definitely make sure to keep pumping out more quality videos to you guys in the future. This is Mikerotastraphy, and I'll catch you guys later.